The protective illusion. Josephine Winters adjusted the modest diamond ring on her left hand as she surveyed the glittering ballroom of the Hawthorne Hotel. The 10,000 per plate charity auction was in full swing, exactly as she had planned it. Crystal chandeliers cast honeyed light across the room, illuminating the city's elite as they mingled, sipped champagne, and discreetly evaluated each other's net worth. "Perfect execution as always, Joe," her assistant Tessa whispered, appearing at her side with a tablet displaying the evening's schedule. "The Westbrook Foundation is thrilled. Donations are already 30% higher than last year." Josephine nodded, allowing herself a small smile of satisfaction. At 32, she had built Winters Premier Events into one of the most sought-after luxury event planning companies in the city. Her reputation for flawless execution and discretion had made her the go-to coordinator for the wealthy and powerful. "Has Mr. Donovan arrived yet?" she asked, scanning the crowd for the foundation's primary benefactor. "Not yet. His office called to say he's running 15 minutes late." Josephine made a mental note to adjust the speaking schedule accordingly. Every detail mattered in these events: timing, ambiance, the precise pairing of wealthy donors with worthy causes. One misstep could cost future contracts. "I see Senator Williams heading your way," Tessa warned under her breath. "Shall I intercept?" Josephine instinctively twisted the ring on her finger. "No need. I've got this." The silver-haired senator approached with a too-wide smile. His reputation for cornering attractive women at events was well known among the event staff circuit. "Ms. Winters, another spectacular event," he said, his gaze lingering a moment too long. "You've outdone yourself." "Thank you, Senator. The Westbrook Foundation deserves nothing less." Josephine extended her left hand as she spoke, making sure the ring caught the light. The senator's eyes flickered to the diamond, his smile faltering slightly. "Your fiancé must be proud of your accomplishments." "He is," Josephine replied smoothly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check on the auction items." It had been 8 months since Josephine had purchased the ring, a convincing but affordable cubic zirconia, and created the fiction of an engaged status. She'd grown tired of deflecting advances from men who viewed her as fair game simply because she was single and in their orbit. The phantom fiancé provided a buffer, an easy excuse that most men respected without question. Better to be seen as taken than to repeatedly reject men who signed her paychecks. The ruse had worked flawlessly until tonight. "The center stone is twisted slightly to the left," a deep voice observed from behind her as she inspected the auction displays. "A fiancé worth his salt would notice that." Josephine turned, composed reply ready on her lips, but faltered when she found herself facing Roman Caldwell. Even if his face hadn't been occasionally splashed across business magazines, his reputation would have preceded him. The founder of Caldwell Investments was known for transforming struggling companies into gold mines, and for his ruthlessness in business dealings. Whispers followed him about connections to less savory enterprises, though nothing had ever been proven. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, recovering quickly, "I didn't realize you were attending tonight." His dark eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. "Last-minute decision. The Children's Hospital is a worthy cause." He glanced pointedly at her hand. "Your ring. It's facing the wrong way." Heat crept up Josephine's neck. "I must have twisted it while working." "Thank you for noticing." The slight curl of his lips suggested he didn't believe her for a second. "Strange that your fiancé hasn't mentioned it. Or is he not here tonight?" Something in his tone, not mocking but almost conspiratorial, made Josephine hesitate. Most men either respected the boundary the ring created or became immediately disinterested. Roman Caldwell seemed to be doing neither. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend. "Work commitment," she improvised. "Pity." Roman's expression shifted to something unreadable. What does this mystery man do that keeps him from accompanying his fiancée to such prestigious events? Before Josephine could fabricate an answer, a commotion near the entrance signaled the arrival of the Foundation's chairman. "Saved by perfect timing. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Caldwell, duty calls." "Of course." He stepped aside, but added as she passed, "I look forward to continuing our conversation later, Ms. Winters." Throughout the next hour, Josephine felt Roman's gaze following her as she orchestrated the evening's proceedings. When the auction began, she positioned herself near the stage, clipboard in hand, ready to address any issues that might arise. She didn't expect Roman to appear beside her again, this time with 2 champagne flutes. "For you and your phantom fiancé," he said quietly, offering her a glass. "Though since he's absent, perhaps I could stand in temporarily." Josephine accepted the champagne warily. "That's not necessary, Mr. Caldwell." "Roman, please." His voice lowered. "And I think it might be. Senator Williams has been watching you all evening, as has Mr. Reinhardt from Pinnacle Investments." Her eyes darted briefly to the men in question, confirming his observation. "Why would you help me?" she asked. Something genuine flickered across his face. "Perhaps I find your solution to an unfortunate problem creative. Or perhaps I simply want the most competent person in the room focused on making this event successful, rather than dodging unwanted attention." Before she could respond, the auctioneer announced a rare vintage wine collection. Roman placed his hand lightly on the small of her back, a gesture both protective and possessive. "What do you say, Josephine? Shall we give them something else to talk about besides your organizational skills?" Against her better judgment, Josephine found herself nodding. For one evening, perhaps having a real person playing the role of her fiancé might be easier than maintaining the fiction alone. What she didn't anticipate was how naturally Roman would slide into the role, or how the warmth of his hand on her back would send unexpected shivers along her spine. Dangerous pretense. The champagne in Josephine's glass sparkled under the chandelier light as Roman guided her through the crowd with practiced ease. His hand remained at the small of her back, not possessive but present, a subtle message to onlookers that she was accompanied. "You're quite good at this," she murmured, noting how several interested gazes had already shifted away from her. "At pretending?" Roman's lips quirked. "Let's just say I understand the value of strategic illusions." The auction continued with astronomical bids flying for everything from exotic vacations to rare artworks. Roman occasionally raised his paddle, securing a weekend at a vineyard estate and an antique pocket watch. Josephine observed him with growing curiosity. Unlike most wealthy attendees who bid for show, he seemed genuinely selective about his choices. "The Children's Hospital means something to you," she said during a brief pause between items. It wasn't a question. Something flickered across his face, vulnerability quickly masked. "My sister spent much of her childhood there. Their research program saved her life." Josephine hadn't expected such a personal revelation. The business magazines portrayed Roman Caldwell as calculating and enigmatic, not sentimental. "I didn't know." "Few do," he interrupted softly. "I prefer to keep my personal motivations private. Makes business negotiations less complicated." She understood immediately. In their respective worlds, personal details became leverage in others' hands. Her fabricated engagement was proof enough of that reality. "Item 23, the auctioneer announced. A private dinner prepared by Chef Emilio Vega at his restaurant Azur, including wine pairings from his personal cellar. Roman raised an eyebrow. Impressive. Vega never does private events. "I convinced him it was for a good cause," Josephine replied, allowing herself a small smile of pride. "His daughter was treated at Westbrook Children's. Bidding starts at $5,000, the auctioneer called. Paddles rose around the room. At $15,000, only 2 bidders remained. Roman and Harrison Powell, a tech entrepreneur known for his competitive streak. $20,000, Powell called, shooting Roman a challenging look. Roman's expression remained impassive. $30. The room hummed with excitement at the escalating bids. Powell hesitated, then $40,000. Roman leaned closer to Josephine, his breath warm against her ear. "Is Chef Vega worth $50,000? The proximity sent an unexpected shiver through her. "His waiting list is 8 months long, and the wine cellar is legendary." $50,000, Roman announced, his eyes never leaving Powell. The tech entrepreneur's jaw tightened. He shook his head slightly, conceding defeat. "Sold for $50,000 to Mr. Caldwell," the auctioneer proclaimed triumphantly. Applause rippled through the room. Roman accepted the congratulations with gracious nods, his hand finding its way back to Josephine's waist. "I hope you'll join me for that dinner," he said quietly. "Since I've just spent an obscene amount of money to impress my fiancé." Josephine felt heat rise to her cheeks. "That's not necessary. This is just for tonight." "Is it?" His dark eyes studied her face. "You've been wearing that ring for, what, 6 months? Longer?" 8, she admitted, surprised by his perception. "How did you know it wasn't real?" Roman guided her toward the terrace doors, away from curious ears. The night air was cool against her skin as they stepped outside, the city lights spreading below like scattered diamonds. Besides the fact that it was facing the wrong way, he smiled slightly. "I've been to 3 events you coordinated in the past year. The ring appeared suddenly in March. Before that, you handled unwanted attention differently. Always professional deflection, never personal disclosure." Josephine stared at him, disconcerted. "You've been watching me." "Observing," he corrected. "It's what I do. Find patterns, identify strategies, understand motivations. It served me well in business." "And what's my motivation, according to your observations?" Roman leaned against the stone balustrade, studying her. "Freedom to do your job without distraction. The ring creates distance, necessary for someone in your position, constantly surrounded by entitled men who mistake professional competence for personal interest." His assessment was so accurate that Josephine felt momentarily exposed, as if he'd peeled back a layer she'd carefully constructed. "The real question," he continued, "is why a woman as accomplished and striking as you feels the need for such protection in the first place." Before she could formulate a response, the terrace doors opened. Tessa appeared, slightly breathless. "Joe, Mr. Donovan has arrived and is asking for you, and the foundation chairman wants to confirm the presentation schedule." "I'll be right there." Josephine turned back to Roman. "Duty calls." He straightened. "Allow me to accompany you. It's what any devoted fiancé would do." Inside, they were immediately approached by the foundation's chairman, Frederick Westbrook, a silver-haired patriarch whose family had established the Children's Hospital generations ago. "Ms. Winters, everything is spectacular," he said warmly, before noticing Roman. "Ah, Mr. Caldwell, I understand congratulations are in order, both for your generous bid and your engagement." Josephine felt a moment of panic, but Roman smoothly extended his arm around her shoulders. "Thank you, Frederick. Though I must admit, Josephine deserves full credit for orchestrating such a successful evening." The older man beamed. "Indeed she does. We're fortunate to have secured her services. My wife has been singing her praises all evening." As they exchanged pleasantries, Josephine watched Roman with growing fascination. He navigated the social dynamics flawlessly, neither confirming nor denying their supposed engagement, yet reinforcing the impression through subtle gestures and carefully chosen words. Throughout the remainder of the evening, they moved through the crowd as a pair. Roman proved unexpectedly helpful, anticipating needs before she voiced them and smoothly intercepting potential problems. When Senator Williams attempted to corner her near the coat check, Roman materialized with impeccable timing, effectively redirecting the conversation. "Your reputation doesn't do you justice," Josephine commented as the event wound down, guests gradually departing with auction winnings and goodbyes. "Which reputation would that be?" Roman asked, amusement in his eyes. "I've collected quite a few over the years. That you're cold, calculating." She hesitated. "Dangerous." "Perhaps I am all those things," he replied, his voice dropping lower. "Does that concern you?" Josephine considered the question seriously. "It should. But I'm beginning to wonder how much of your reputation is strategic, like my ring, a protective facade. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, at being seen so clearly. For a moment, Josephine glimpsed vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior. "Perceptive," he finally said. Though I wouldn't dismiss the dangerous part too quickly. The last guests were departing, the staff beginning the discreet process of breakdown and cleanup. Their charade had reached its natural conclusion. "Thank you," Josephine said, extending her hand formally, "for your contribution to the foundation and for your assistance tonight." Roman took her hand, but instead of shaking it, he turned it over, his thumb brushing lightly across her palm. The simple touch sent electricity racing up her arm. "The dinner at Azure," he said. "My invitation stands. No pretense necessary." Josephine withdrew her hand slowly. "Mr. Caldwell?" "Roman." Roman. His name felt intimate on her lips. "Tonight was an arrangement of convenience. I appreciate your playing along, but you prefer your imaginary fiancé to a real dinner companion?" His eyes held hers, challenging but not unkind. "At least consider it. Chef Vega's tasting menu deserves proper appreciation." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card, offering it to her. "My private number, in case you change your mind." As their fingers brushed during the exchange, Josephine felt a jolt of awareness that had nothing to do with their pretend relationship, and everything to do with the genuine connection that had developed over the evening. "Good night, Josephine Winters," Roman said, his voice a low caress. "I look forward to our next meeting, with or without the ring." As he walked away, Josephine found herself turning the card over in her fingers, wondering if the real danger wasn't Roman Caldwell's reputation, but the unexpected way he had slipped past her carefully constructed defenses in a single evening. Unveiled Truths. The morning after the gala, Josephine sat in her office reviewing the event's success. The Westbrook Foundation had raised over $2 million, nearly double last year's total. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing with congratulatory messages and, more importantly, inquiries about future bookings. But her thoughts kept drifting to Roman Caldwell and his business card, which lay on her desk like a silent challenge. "Earth to Joe?" Tessa waved a hand in front of her face. "I asked if you wanted me to send the final numbers to the foundation." "Yes, sorry." Josephine straightened in her chair. "And add a personal note thanking Mr. Westbrook for the opportunity." Tessa nodded, then hesitated. "So, you and Roman Caldwell, huh?" "The whole office is buzzing about it." Josephine sighed. "There's nothing to buzz about. He was just being helpful. Helpful doesn't usually include $50,000 dinner bids or looking at someone the way he looked at you." Tessa raised an eyebrow. "Half the women there would kill for that kind of attention from him." "It was an act, Tessa, for the event." Josephine tapped her pen against the desk. "Nothing more, if you say so." Tessa didn't look convinced. "But his assistant called while you were in with the design team." "He wants to schedule a meeting." Josephine's pulse quickened. "About what?" "The Preston Museum fundraiser next month. Apparently he's on the board and wants to discuss bringing you on as the event coordinator." This was unexpected. The Preston Museum of Modern Art hosted one of the city's most prestigious annual galas. Landing that contract would elevate Winter's premier events to an entirely new level. "Did you schedule it?" "Tomorrow at 1. His office." "I figured you wouldn't mind." Tessa grinned. "Professional opportunity and all that." After Tessa left, Josephine picked up Roman's card again, running her thumb over the embossed lettering. Something told her this meeting would blur the lines between professional and personal in ways she wasn't prepared for. The Caldwell Investments headquarters occupied the top 5 floors of a gleaming downtown skyscraper. Josephine stepped out of the elevator into a reception area of understated luxury, muted grays and blues, original artwork on the walls, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. "Ms. Winters." The receptionist smiled warmly. "Mr. Caldwell is expecting you. Please follow me." She was led not to a conference room as expected, but to Roman's private office. He rose from behind his desk when she entered, his tall frame outlined against the city skyline. Without the atmospheric lighting of the gala, Josephine noticed details she'd missed before: the slight silver threading at his temples, the intensity of his gaze, the way his tailored shirt accentuated broad shoulders. "Josephine." He smiled, gesturing to a seating area rather than the formal desk. "Thank you for coming." "Your assistant mentioned the Preston Museum fundraiser," she said, taking a seat on one of the leather chairs. She deliberately left her fake engagement ring at home, a small act of honesty that felt significant. "Yes." Roman sat across from her, his posture relaxed but attentive. "The board has been underwhelmed by the last few years' events. Attendance is down, donations are stagnating. We need someone with vision to revitalize it. And you thought of me. Your reputation precedes you. Last night's gala was impressive. Elegant but not stuffy. Exclusive without being alienating." He leaned forward slightly. "The Preston needs that balance." "I'm flattered," Josephine said carefully. "But I wonder if there's more to this invitation." Roman studied her for a moment, then smiled. "Direct. I appreciate that." He stood and walked to a small bar tucked into a corner. "Drink?" "No, thank you." He poured himself a small measure of whiskey before returning. "There is more, yes, but not what you might think." He took a sip before continuing. "The Preston fundraiser is important to me personally. My mother was an artist, not famous but dedicated. The museum gave her her first exhibition. This glimpse into his personal history surprised Josephine. Roman Caldwell's private life was notoriously guarded. She died 3 years ago, he continued. The Preston was her favorite place in the city. This fundraiser coincides with what would have been her 70th birthday. The vulnerability in his admission caught Josephine off guard. "I'm sorry about your mother." "Thank you." His expression softened momentarily before returning to its usual composed state. "So yes, this is business, but it's also personal. I want it done right." "I understand." And she did. Behind every major event were personal motivations, emotional undercurrents that drove the decisions. "What's your vision for the fundraiser?" For the next hour, they discussed concepts and possibilities. Roman proved to be insightful and decisive, with clear preferences but an openness to her expertise. Their conversation flowed easily, ideas building upon one another in a creative synergy Josephine rarely experienced with clients. As they wrapped up the business portion of their meeting, Roman walked to his desk and returned with a folder. "This is the official contract from the museum board. Take some time to review it." He handed her the documents, then added, "And now, about that dinner at Azure." Josephine accepted the folder, her fingers brushing against his. "Is that also business, Mr. Caldwell?" "Definitely not." His eyes held hers. "That's entirely personal, and I believe you agreed to call me Roman." The air between them seemed charged with unspoken possibility. "I haven't agreed to dinner yet, but you're considering it." It wasn't a question. "You left your ring at home today." Josephine felt her cheeks warm at his observation. It seemed disingenuous to continue the charade in private. "I appreciate the honesty." Roman moved closer, just enough for Josephine to catch the subtle scent of his cologne. "Last night you said my reputation should concern you." "Does it?" She considered the question carefully. "Reputations are often exaggerated or oversimplified, like protective illusions." "Indeed." A smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Though sometimes the rumors aren't entirely unfounded." "Which rumors would those be?" She challenged. "That I'm selective about what I want." His voice dropped lower, and relentless in pursuing it. The implications hung between them, electric and undeniable. Josephine had built her career on careful control and calculated decisions. Roman Caldwell represented the opposite: unpredictability, risk, the unknown territory beyond her self-imposed boundaries. "Azure requires reservations months in advance," she said finally. "How exactly do you plan to claim your auction prize so quickly?" Roman's smile widened. "Chef Vega owes me a favor." "Tonight at 8? Tonight?" Josephine laughed despite herself. "That's presumptuous." "Confident," he corrected. "There's a difference. She should say no." The professional complications alone were reason enough to decline. Yet the thought of walking away from whatever was developing between them felt like a greater risk than staying. 8 o'clock, she agreed. But just dinner. No pretense, no expectations. No pretense, Roman promised, though his eyes conveyed a different message. Though I find expectations tend to evolve naturally. Azur was intimate and exclusive, with only 12 tables tucked into an elegantly renovated brownstone. As promised, Chef Vega himself greeted them, leading them to a secluded corner with a view of both the kitchen and the small garden illuminated by fairy lights. A 7-course journey, the chef announced with flourish, each paired with wines from my personal collection. For you, Mr. Caldwell, and your lovely companion, no menus, only surprises. As the evening progressed, Josephine found herself captivated not just by the extraordinary food, but by Roman himself. Away from the performative environment of the gala, he revealed a different side, thoughtful, occasionally funny, and surprisingly well-versed in art, literature, and world affairs. "You're not what I expected," she admitted over the 4th course, a delicate sea-based preparation. "What did you expect? Someone colder, more calculating." Roman swirled the wine in his glass. "That side exists too. Business requires it. And what does this require?" She gestured between them. His eyes met hers over the rim of his glass. "Authenticity. Something neither of us has much practice with, I suspect." The observation struck close to home. How long had it been since Josephine had allowed herself genuine connection? The ring had been merely the physical manifestation of walls she'd been building for years. "Tell me something true," she challenged softly. "Something not in the business magazines or society pages." Roman considered for a moment. "I was afraid of the dark until I was 12. My sister, the one who was ill, she would read to me every night until I fell asleep." The unexpected confession touched her. "Is she—" "She's well now. Lives in Paris with her family. I see her twice a year." He leaned forward. "Your turn. Something true." Josephine took a breath. The ring wasn't just about unwanted advances. It was about control, keeping people at a distance because it felt safer than risking disappointment. "And has it worked?" Roman asked quietly. "Until you called my bluff." She smiled ruefully. "No one else ever questioned it. They saw what they expected to see. Most people do." He reached across the table, his fingers lightly touching hers. "I see you, Josephine Winters. Not the efficient event coordinator or the woman with the fake engagement ring. You." The intensity of his gaze made her heart race. For a moment, she felt completely exposed, as if all her carefully constructed layers had been stripped away, leaving only the raw, unguarded truth of herself. Chef Vega arrived with the next course, breaking the moment. But something had shifted, a threshold crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. By the time dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate creation paired with aged port, Josephine had made a decision. The walls she'd built, the distance she'd maintained, the control she'd clung to, none of it had brought her what she truly wanted. Perhaps it was time to risk something real. As they stepped outside into the cool evening air, Roman turned to her. "I'll have my driver take you home." "Actually," Josephine said, surprising herself with her boldness, "I thought we might continue our conversation." Roman studied her face, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Are you sure?" In answer, she stepped closer, eliminating the careful distance she'd maintained. "I'm tired of pretending, Roman. Tired of safety at the expense of living." He traced the curve of her cheek with his fingertips, a touch so gentle it almost undid her. "No more protective illusions, then?" "No more illusions," she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. When he kissed her, it felt like finally acknowledging a truth that had been there all along. Dangerous, perhaps, but infinitely more real than any safety she'd fabricated for herself. Later, as they stood on the balcony of Roman's penthouse overlooking the sleeping city, his arms encircled her from behind. The night air carried the promise of autumn, change hovering just beyond the horizon. "You never asked about the rumors," Roman said, his chin resting lightly on her shoulder. "The dangerous connections people whisper about." Josephine turned in his arms to face him. Should I be concerned? His expression grew serious. My business dealings are complex, not always straightforward, but never without principles. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I protect what's mine, Josephine, fiercely. The admission should have alarmed her, but instead, she felt a surge of recognition, seeing in him the same complexity she carried within herself. The world was rarely black and white. Most lived in shades of gray, navigating the boundaries between what was safe and what was worth risking everything for. I don't need protecting, she said, holding his gaze. But I do need truth. Can you give me that? I already am. He took her left hand, his thumb brushing over the bare ring finger. No more facades between us. Just reality, complicated, unpredictable, but real. Josephine nodded, understanding the pact they were making. The journey ahead would not be simple, but it would be authentic. Two people who had hidden behind carefully crafted images finally allowing themselves to be seen, with all their complexities and contradictions. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Josephine realized that sometimes the most dangerous thing wasn't letting someone see through your protective illusions. It was discovering that in the absence of those illusions, you could finally find something true, beneath the surface. 6 months into their relationship, Josephine discovered the true extent of Roman's business empire. After a cryptic phone call interrupted their weekend getaway, he explained his family's legacy, not just legitimate investments, but a carefully managed network of gray market interests inherited from his father. Everything I've built legitimately was to distance myself from that world, he confessed one night, voice low in the darkness of his penthouse. But some ties can never be fully severed. When an old rival threatened Roman's sister in Paris, Josephine witnessed firsthand the power he wielded with a single phone call. The threat disappeared overnight. No questions asked. Does it frighten you? He asked, searching her face for judgment. Josephine considered the complicated truth. Not as much as it should, she admitted. What frightens me is how easily I understand it. She realized then that her years of navigating high society events had prepared her for this, recognizing the shadows behind polished veneers, the power plays beneath cordial smiles. Her ring had been her armor. Roman's reputation was his. When he proposed 2 weeks later with his grandmother's vintage emerald ring, Josephine said yes without hesitation. Some would call it dangerous. She called it finding someone who truly saw her and accepting all she saw in return. Full circle. The Preston Museum fundraiser became their masterpiece, a triumph that doubled previous donations and established Winter's premier events as the city's premier luxury event coordinator. As guests mingled beneath the soaring glass ceiling, Josephine surveyed her work with quiet pride. A display near the entrance featured Roman's mother's paintings, her legacy honored amidst celebrated masters. Magnificent, Roman whispered, appearing beside her with champagne. She would have loved this. I wish I could have met her, Josephine said sincerely. She would have seen through you immediately, he replied with a smile. Just as I did. Across the room, she noticed a young woman, an assistant curator, nervously adjusting a fake engagement ring on her finger as a donor approached. Catching the woman's eye, Josephine gave her a knowing smile. Some protective illusions were necessary stepping stones, temporary shelters on the path to finding one's true strength. Later that night, as they walked home beneath star-scattered skies, Roman kissed her hand where his grandmother's emerald now rested. No more fake rings, he murmured against her skin. No more pretending, Josephine agreed, realizing that sometimes the most dangerous choice, dropping your defenses, revealing your true self, led to the greatest reward of all. The diamond had been cubic zirconia, but what they'd found together was unquestionably real.